You're watching CTV News Channel. I'm Todd Vanderheyden. Less than 100 days now until the U.S. presidential election, 99 days and counting. The latest poll numbers show Democratic leader Joe Biden in the clear lead, as most of the polls have shown for about a month or so now. Biden appears ahead in double digits in key battleground states, places like Florida, Arizona, Michigan. Those are states Donald Trump won back in 2016. But remember, this is a president who's famous for defying the odds. And you know what else? 99 days is a good chunk of time to turn things around. Let's bring in our experts. Brian Calfano, political commentator at the University of Cincinnati and in Chicago. Happy to see Chris Robling back with us, Republican strategist, who I'm going to start with. Hey, Chris, what do you think?
Well, I think it's the toughest campaign since 1864 when General McClellan challenged President Lincoln. And you can see it played out in the city streets across America, and you can see it in the response to and all of the vectors of, no pun intended, the coronavirus. It's a very tough time, and both sides now are going to get, I think, straight into the very prosaic work of identifying their voters and getting them to the polls. That's essentially what the Trump campaign has been doing for the last 2.5, 3 years since it got started. And I know the Democrats and the Biden campaign are working on a similar strategy, especially in key states, as you point out, like Florida, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. They want to pick up a few of those to get Biden over the top.
Brian, what's your read?
Yeah, I think that's right in terms of the get out the vote efforts. When you look at where the Biden campaign is today, I think it's kind of hard to think that anything can really go wrong. But listen, this is the Democratic Party. And ever since 2016, I think they've been ready to have their expectations let down a bit. There's this joke on social media right now that essentially says President Trump hasn't been this far behind in the polls since he won the election in 2016, right? And it's a little different now. Trump is a lot further behind than he was against Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. But the idea still stands. When you look at these polls on a state-by-state basis and you break down those numbers, there will be differences in terms of how the polling methodology works. A lot of the polls that have Biden up by double digits outside the margin of error are of registered voters. Now, the pollsters have a secret sauce, each one of them, to try to divine who's going to show up to the polls. But I think in a COVID-type atmosphere, it's almost impossible to accurately predict what it's going to look like when people actually start showing up. We're about 49 days, by the way, from the first state with early voting, and that's Pennsylvania, where folks start to cast their ballot. So there's not a ton of time for President Trump, but I don't know that this lead is insurmountable yet in terms of where Biden is relative to Trump in the polls.
Hey, Chris, we're also seeing the president kind of shifting his perspective, too, when it comes to the pandemic. And, you know, some are saying too little, too late. Others are saying, hey, you know, this is a good thing that he's talking openly about mask wearing and that he's, canceling the Jacksonville component of the Republican convention because of concerns about what's going on in the state of Florida and the